The world is complex, the Bible is complex. Human existence is a tangled ball of experience, perception, and understanding. Ravel is a puzzling word, denoting both a tangling and untangling. This podcast attempts to hold honest conversations in good faith. Some ideas expressed in this podcast will be challenging. Others will be obvious. When a PhD in biblical interpretation and a habitually podcasting man-child discuss matters of society, scripture, and scandal, you get Ravel.
Hey everybody, you are listening to Ravel, and it's me, your best buddy Basil. And with me, as always, is the dutiful, the respectful, the very good mama's boy, Dr. Christopher Ryan Gates. Happy Mother's Day, Chris.
Well, happy Mother's Day to you too, Basil.
Look at us, just two adult men who love their mothers very much.
Yeah, you sound a little hollow. I have to confess, you do.
Uh-oh. Like emotionally or
No, you're not coming in the high fidelity that I'm used to hearing you in.
I see. Yes. Well, we did an interesting thing for this episode, and I'm very excited about it. And I think our mothers should be very excited about it. I think this counts as a Mother's Day gift. I mean, I sure feel like this is my gift to my mother, and I'm very proud of it. Now, we both recorded separately with our own mothers, the women that birthed us into this world, the portals from which we were brought from the heavenly realms into the realms of men.
Yes.
And it was a good time. We thought it'd be very, well, let's be honest. It's very special for me to get to sort of, present my mother to the world and tell her how proud I am of her and how much I love her. And she listens. She just recently, actually, I didn't know this, just recently started listening to Ravel.
Yeah.
And so it's very good timing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I got so distracted. I got off track
You did.
there.
I knew you'd bring it back, though.
Yeah. But so the reason that I sound the way I do is because we spent this week interviewing our mothers. Maybe even interviewing doesn't even count. It was we spent some quality time talking to our mothers for the podcast.
Yeah.
And what we didn't do is record an intro while I was in town. So I'm currently traveling the dimensions of time and space. I'm actually in the woods right now. I'm looking at trees and both fallen and standing, and it's been snowing all day. So I'm recording this on my telephone, the magic technology that we are given today. And that is why I don't sound how I usually do with my
crystal clear.
Yeah. Professional podcaster guy gear.
Yeah.
But that's kind of part of the fun. It's unique. And as you, dear listener, listen to this intro, just imagine old Baz sitting in the forest, pretty cold, with snow and wet, and I'm wearing my Crocs with no socks.
Wow.
I was not prepared for the snow, but as any true professional podcaster should, ready at any moment to record an intro to a podcast we forgot to record an intro to. So,
well, it says something about your level of commitment to the show as well, too. I mean, we could have just run it without the intro, but you were committed to having a well done, fully finished episode here. So
gotta keep the product as consistent as possible.
Yeah.
And it's a very special opportunity to thank all of the mothers of Ravel out there
Yeah.
Being a mother is a very special and sort of holy and incredible position, I think, in life that totally blows my mind, and I will never have sort of the opportunity to experience, but such is not my place.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, we just are very excited to be able to give this gift to our mothers, but also to all the mothers of Ravel out there. And we hope you get to enjoy two grown sons talking to their mothers on a podcast.
Yeah, yeah. I have to say that in listening back, I was really kind of taken, the conversations. I thought if you're into, hearing about people's stories and their lives and those sorts of things. It really was as much as we might not have been bringing in whatever scholars or artists or any of the people, but our moms, fascinating ladies. And if nothing else, I think I was thinking in the back of my mind, I was like, if for some reason this shouldn't be wonderful, which it is, but I thought,
Uh-huh.
whatever, it's for us and our moms anyway, so everybody else can just
Yeah.
deal with it for one episode.
There's definitely an aspect of this, dear listener, where if you are not interested in hearing about and from our mothers, feel free to just skip it. But I think you're gonna love it because
Yeah,
this is more for our mommies than anything else.
yeah, yeah.
Um, it's kind of an interesting situation because just the way our crazy schedules were this week, I did not get a chance to listen yet to your talk. It's weird. I keep calling it an interview or trying to call it an interview, but saying we interviewed our mothers is probably not correct,
Yeah.
like any son out there who just gets to kind of have a meandering conversation with their mother for an hour. Yeah, not quite an interview, but I had a very special time talking to Mama Basil, and I know she also was had a wonderful time. It's always fun getting to reminisce on our lives and maybe even ask questions that we never really thought to ask our mothers before,
Yeah.
where there's something about the 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 concept of a podcast and other people listening to you having a conversation with your mother that gives a lot of interesting opportunities to ask questions or uh, ask about stories, have be told stories perhaps we've been told before or new ones. So I don't know. I thought it was a very unique opportunity, not just for a podcast, but also to have just a conversation with my mother that I don't know, a very unique conversation that I've never had.
Yeah, it's kind of the same for me too. We talk a little bit about it as I'm talking to my mom, but she's real busy, and as strange as it might seem, and as busy as I am and she is, sometimes it's hard to actually find an hour to just sit down and talk with your mom. So it was nice to just schedule. Hey, do you have an hour to just have a conversation? And she did, and she made it happen. Very gracious. My mom, a little more shy than your mom, but she had a lot of great things to share, little nuggets of wisdom here and there. It was really nice
Oh,
for me to
sure.
just be able to hear her heart, and then of course your mom too. I did have a chance to listen to yours, and she's just a wonderful woman. No surprise there.
Ain't it
The
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 truth?
apple not falling far from the tree, as they say there. So I think people are going to really love it. We'll, just roll into what you're going to hear is two different segments of the show here. We'll do Basil and his mom up front, and you'll hear them be able to talk back and forth for about an hour it goes. And then after that, will be me talking to my mom, and that is our Mother's Day gifts to our moms and to all of the listeners out there. I think people will really enjoy it. We both have really wonderful, godly, sweet mothers. So I had a really great
Amen.
time. I hope everybody really likes it.
I think they will. And look, people, listener, I know there's some of you out there where you're listening to this and you're thinking, I think I forgot to call my mom on Mother's Day. This is your sign. Go call your mother right now. Just pause the podcast, call your mother, talk to her for an hour. I mean, you could listen to the podcast first. Maybe it'll give you some good ideas about
There you go. Yeah.
questions to ask your mother. I think that might be one of the best case scenarios. If we inspire individuals to call their mothers and really, perhaps, pretend you're doing a podcast. Pretend you're doing a podcast, you're interviewing your mother, and you will learn lots of wonderful things and connect with her, and she will appreciate it very much. You'll realize just how much you love each other.
Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, moms.
Mother.
Hey, hun. How are you?
I'm good. Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you so much.
I love you very much.
I love you too. I wish you were here.
I know. We're very far away from one another. And
yes.
But luckily, technology allows us to stay connected. What a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
So
much more now than before.
Thank you for agreeing to have this call with me on Mother's Day.
How fun. I'm so happy. Yes.
We were, Dr. Chris and I were trying to figure out what to do for this episode. And we were thankfully reminded that it was Mother's Day. And so it was kind of obvious. It was an obvious choice.
Nice.
Yeah. So, first of all, you're having a good day. Dad told me you were out by the pool for a while.
Yes. Out by the pool.
Enjoying yourself.
On my tan.
Working on your tan. Okay. Did you do your swimming exercises?
I did.
Good.
I did my swimming.
Good.
Yes. You know I made up my own swimming, right?
Yes. Oh, yes. You've made up your own, what are they, water aerobics routine?
Yes, it's called Alphabet Swim.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to try to sell it to all the, swimming instructors.
Someday, yes, you're going to franchise your own set of swimming exercises.
Absolutely.
Well, very fun. Yeah, you showed me your swimming exercises over Christmas, and very impressive. Very difficult, not easy to do.
No, but it's getting easier for me.
Yeah, well.
I'm building those muscles,
Good. All right. So here's what we wanted to do. Just wanted to talk to, Dr. Chris will be talking to his mother. I will be talking to you, my mother. And it's just kind of loosey-goosey, but I got some ideas of what we want to talk about. But more than anything, this is just a wonderful opportunity for us to connect on Mother's Day. Okay?
Yes, I agree.
Okay. So first of all, I think a lot of people are curious, but you just recently told me that you started listening to Ravel.
Yes, I did.
What took you so long?
Just recently.
What took you so long?
Well, hun, I just been listening to all the other shows.
Yeah, there's a lot of content.
Thought, and I'm like, I gotta check this Ravel thing out. And so I was literally painting.
Uh-oh.
So, what's the matter?
Hold on. We had a poor connection there. Sorry, last thing I heard was you were painting.
Yes, I was painting our house, and because we're getting ready to sell, and I was on a large 20-foot ladder. I think it had to be at least 20 feet.
Dangerous.
And I thought, you know what? The best thing to do is start listening to Ravel. And so I went on Ravel, and I saw that you had many episodes, but I went down to episode 1 and started.
Started from the beginning.
From the very beginning.
Okay.
It was a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And now I decided I'm going to start listening to the most recent ones, like this one.
Yeah.
And then I will work my way backwards. I think that's better.
Good idea. Yes, that's better. You get to see how far we've come and work your way back to when we are so green with the show. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So what did you think? I mean, you've listened to many of my other podcasts.
I have, and
this
I love them so very much.
Yes, and this one's different, obviously. So what do you think? I mean, what do you like about it?
I love the fact that you and Dr. Chris are bringing in a lot of angles to Christendom and the Christian life and the Bible.
Yeah.
As you know, you pretty much were born on the pew, so it's really fun to listen to, not just our stream, but everybody's stream. I love it.
Lots of different ways to be a Christian in this world. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's very brainy.
Very
brainy. Y'all use like really big words. And sometimes I'm thinking I need to look some of those up. But I figure like osmosis, the more I listen to it, the more I'll start getting it.
Yeah,
but
let it soak in. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're enjoying it. Now, I would love to just talk about me the whole time. We all know that I like that. But this is about you. So, because it is Mother's Day, I am the reason that you're a mother. So you're welcome. You're welcome for that.
Yes. Thank you so much.
And of course, you're the best mother in the world. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you. Yeah.
Let's start from the beginning. We'll do some more mother related material, and then we can talk about how awesome I am later.
Okay.
So when I was born, like the first time I was all slimy and crying and humongous.
Right.
What?
And you were big.
Yes. Well, see, Dr. Chris just had a baby, and I forget the numbers, but he was bragging about his baby that was, I forget, 11 pounds or something.
Oh,
Wasn't I bigger than that? I was bigger than that.
You were close to 10. You were 9 pounds.
9? I thought I was like 14.
No, oh gosh, no. No. You were 27 inches if that counts.
I don't know. Is that big?
That's big, yeah. But you had kind of a little cone head.
Oh my gosh.
Well, do you really want the deets on this one?
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
So 42 hours and
42. Really took your
labor.
time, huh?
Yeah, right. And then but many of those were the actual transition, like 14 hours of transition. And anybody who's had a baby knows what that means.
Okay. That's in between. That's in between in and out.
In and out of consciousness, yeah, for me.
Wait, what does transition mean?
Transition is when you start pushing
half
the baby
in, half out. Okay, I see. All right.
Like you're in the birth canal. You're no longer in the uterus. You've actually moved into the canal.
Okay, yeah, this is very motherly.
And the ladies have to push. If they don't push,
can't take a rest.
You just ain't coming out.
Okay.
You got to push.
All right.
So I was 14 hours of pushing.
I'm not going to lie. I've already been debunked from a long-held belief that I thought I was a 14-pound baby, but you're saying I wasn't.
No.
I was 9.
Oh no, honey, I would have bursted if you were.
Okay.
No, I'm not. No, I can't do 14, but I can do 9 pounds.
Okay.
14 ounces.
14 ounces. So there was a 14 in there.
Almost 10. You were almost 10 pounds.
All right. Well, Dr. Chris's baby was bigger, and I've been debunked by my mother on my own podcast. This is great. I love it.
I'm not sure debunk might be the right word, but maybe just corrected.
It was fact checked. Yeah.
Oh, good one. Good one. Yeah.
So what did you think?
I was so very happy, finally. And you were just the best kid ever. Really.
Yeah.
I would have had 7 more just like you.
Yeah. But you didn't.
Yeah.
I'm very special that way.
No, because I didn't want to take away from you.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what it was. Thank you for that. Well, like you said, I was pretty much born on the pew.
You were.
You and Dad were already in the ministry by the time I was
Yes.
born, which
Yes.
is cool. And it's something that I didn't really realize was so unique until I started, I don't know, being in the world. Not being in the world in sort of the theological sense. I mean, just existing, doing podcasts, interviewing people. Because when you grow up in the church, you're pretty much just surrounded by church people all the time.
Oh, yeah. You just have a whole bubble of faith that you're just raised in.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful thing.
I did have this question here that I wanted to ask. Was there a time that you can remember, really any time during my life, that I like really embarrassed you at church? Like something specifically in church?
I'm going to say no.
No.
No, seriously, you were literally the best kid ever. I mean, I know, I'm just saying that because I'm your mom, but I'm not. Like, you never embarrassed me. You are always.
I didn't like spit up on the
No,
pew or
none of that.
really
You
let
slept a
one
lot.
rip.
Only I could tell that. You weren't that loud.
Okay. All
with
right.
your
Well,
ripping.
that's good. I don't know.
You were just you were just a very kind, sweet, nice person.
Yeah. From the
Human.
beginning. Yeah.
From the very beginning.
Hear that, folks?
Hear that, folks? Literally. I'm not even kidding you. When you would get upset, like you would be a brand new baby, right? You'd just be like, you know how most babies are just like, just crying and screaming and all that. You always warned us. Like you'd be laying there and all of a sudden I'd hear this. And then if I didn't like hop right up, you'd be like,
Never took you by surprise. I eased you
Never.
in.
You always eased us in and of what you needed, and it was just so nice, you know. I mean, I love all kids.
Yeah.
And I get everybody's got their own personalities, but I'm just being honest with you. I'm not making this up. You're asking, I'm telling you.
What was the hardest part about me?
Okay, the hardest thing about you was you did learn to talk very young. And it was just a little tough to understand. Can I tell one little story?
Yeah, of course.
So you're on your little, I don't know if you remember your horse,
my
Thunder.
Rocking horse, Thunder. Yeah.
Yes, Thunder. So you had to be probably 2, maybe a year and a half. I mean, you walked at 9 months old and you got your first tooth at 3 months.
Athlete.
Yeah, really. So at about a year and a half, you were on Thunder, bouncing up and down, and you kept going, pow it, like really loud, like pow it, and then you take your little hand and you'd wave it in the air, and you'd hold on with one hand, and you'd
like
be
a
like
real cowboy.
Like a real cowboy.
Yeah.
And you'd go pow it, and I'd go pow it. What's pow it? I go, pow it. What's pow it? You go, pow it. I go, pow it. What? And so we just let it go. We let it go. And like the next year, you're now 2.5, and you'd get on the horse and you'd be like, pirate. Like you'd say pirate, but when you were 1.5, it was pow it.
Did I not know that pirates? Did I think pirates and cowboys were the same thing?
I think so. I don't even know where you learned the word. But you did learn it.
But I did.
So that was the only hardest thing about you.
Is understanding why I was screaming pirate on a rocking horse.
Okay, there's one more.
Okay.
You got time for one more?
Yeah,
okay, so
we got all the time in the world.
Okay, so you're in your high chair. And I'm feeding you. About the same age, you're learning to talk. You're starting to talk in sentences that make absolutely no sense at all. And so
not much has changed. Obviously.
You knew what you were saying. You absolutely knew what you were saying. And I remember you wanted something and you go, blah, blah. And I go, blah, blah. And so I get like cookie or Cheerios or something, and you're like, no, and you're pushing it away and you're going, blah, blah. I'm like, blah, blah. So I get some water and you're like, blah, blah. And you start to cry, right? And I'm like, you want some bread? And so I give you a piece of bread, and you did throw the bread down, and you go, not blah, blah, blah. And I never figured out what blah, blah was, but I knew what blah was. Blah was bread.
Blah was bread.
Did not want bread. Yeah, you wanted blah, blah.
That's funny. Wow.
It was very cute,
yeah.
you know?
Okay, well, I'm sensing some themes here. Had a lot to say, but didn't quite know how to say it. Again, perhaps another hint as to my future career as a sort of middle-of-the-road obscure podcaster.
No, you're very communicative, and I love that about you.
Oh, well, thank you. Now, what did you... I mean, I don't know what it's like to have a kid, but...
You will.
One thing that, I don't know, I find interesting is just life. You know, life never really turns out exactly how we think it's going to turn out. And that's kind of part of the fun part. What kind of expectations did you have for me? Like,
expectations.
Yeah, you can choose whatever timeline you want, but as a kid, you know, as a baby, maybe, did you have like a dream that I would grow up to be a athlete or a pastor or a whatever? I mean, what kind of expectations did I set for you early on?
That is a very good question. Yes. I'm going to say you exceeded my expectations.
Oh, well.
And in that, again,
you didn't expect very much from me.
You were kind of always ahead of me because you were my first child as well. So I didn't really know what was going to happen. But I always knew you were going to kind of be at the top of your game, you know? Yeah. I always knew you were going to be at the top, kind of
Optimistic.
a leader. Yeah. Because you always were ahead of the curve. You were, even as a baby, again, you know, first tooth, and then you walked at 9 months old. Not many babies are doing that.
Yeah,
you literally let go and walked, and you're very strong.
I was sort of redefining, blurring the lines between pirate and cowboy in a way that you know, the culture had not caught up to.
Right.
Yet. Yeah.
And you were very smart. You still are. You're a very smart man.
Oh, thank you.
You were very smart. I'll never forget, when you got that little hammer. Remember when Al gave you the little hammer? Oh gosh, you
Al
had to be what?
Great.
4?
Al was great grandmother's boyfriend.
Yes. I think she probably was 85 or something when she was Al's girlfriend. But yeah, and Al gave you a little hammer. I think you still have the hammer.
I still have the hammer. Yeah. Apparently at this time it was okay to give children hammers as a toy. And, you know, these were great grandparents, great grand boyfriend or whatever. And and it was a different generation. Apparently it was totally normal to give a 3-year-old a hammer as a toy.
A 3-year-old a hammer, but also the nails that go with it.
Yes. And I was out in front of the old folks' home, and I was trying to use this hammer to hit nails into a piece of wood, and I was not doing a good job.
You were not. You were trying, and that's okay. That's what all we're expecting to do is to try, right?
Yeah.
However, Grandma said you got upset or something.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. I got mad that I couldn't hit the nail into the wood as a 3-year-old with a hammer.
Right.
And I took the nail and I threw the nail in frustration.
Yes.
There we go. I threw it out into the driveway.
Absolutely. And Grandma, for some reason, didn't think that was okay for a 3-year-old to throw the nail.
Yeah, weird.
She said, "Are you not old enough for the hammer?" And you were so smart. You said, "Well, Grandma," kind of like that. You go
like a 3-year-old.
like, Grandma,
Mm-hmm.
I'm old enough for the hammer. I'm just not old enough for the nails. And Grandma looked at you and said, "Oh my God, you're so smart."
Yes, this was,
So
this
that was
is
pretty cute.
in the sort of the mythos, the lore that we sort of build. A lot of things. Being an adult now, childhood seems less real, like it was a real thing, and more like a set of mythologies that sort of define how I see the world. It doesn't even have to be mythology. It's like history. It's when we think back far enough in history, it's almost like it's just a set of stories that we can apply to life now. Like if you think about, back in World War One, this happened, and this applies to life today and how things are going. Or you think of mythologies like or I don't want to compare it to the Bible necessarily because it's different. But when you're thinking of stories from the past, you really can only connect with them in the way that applies to your life today. And that story about the hammer and the nail has become such a mythology and sort of obscure guiding principle in my life that I just think about every once in a while.
Well, it was classic. I mean, it was classic, and
Yeah.
your reaction was just classic, and you were so brainy about it. You weren't upset that the hammer got taken away. You were just like trying to reason.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I'm not too old for the hammer, or I'm not too young for the hammer. I'm just too young for the nails. Like, what were you thinking?
Yeah, like the differentiation there to be thinking like, no. Let me split this up. It's not just that I'm frustrated and a child, but
exactly.
I can use the hammer. It's the nails that are the problem, Mother.
Yes, they are. The nail was the wrong thing to give me.
Yeah.
So, and I think even in life today, we got to know our limitations and not worry about it.
Know the
Just
difference
what they
between the
are.
problems. Being able to identify the actual problem instead of just kind of resulting to whatever's happening now, all of it's wrong. And sometimes it's just the nails, not the hammer and
That's
the
right.
nails.
It's just the one little factor left out of the situation you would not have that frustration.
Yeah. Well,
that's good.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Now, you and Dad waited a little bit to have me after getting married. You were you were kind of these hippie people I keep hearing about.
We were.
Where
we kind of still are a little bit, but yeah.
And you had me later than probably most people in your generation. You're a little older.
Yeah.
You were like in your 30s, basically.
I was exactly 30.
Yeah. And so, was there a reason for that, or were you wanting to wait, or did it just work out that way?
No, it just worked out that way. I got married at 28, and Dad's 4 years older than me, so he would have been 22, 31, 32. And then I think you know this. Maybe your listeners would relate to me a little bit here, but I got pregnant before you. And we lost that baby. That was a little girl, and I told you that would be your big sister.
Yeah.
And we lost her, and then very shortly after that, like possibly 8 more months after that, we got pregnant with you. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a little scared.
Yeah.
But we took care of ourselves, and I took care of myself. Not that I didn't before, but I'm finding out that giving a birth to a child is a miracle.
Right.
It is a miracle.
Yeah.
It is a literal miracle of God. And there are miscarriages every day, and if we're speaking to someone who's had one, I sympathize with you. And the Lord keeps giving life, so just keep going for it.
Yeah. Right.
But that is what happened. So you were the second,
Mm-hmm.
and then but so shortly after. So let's see, married at 28, I got pregnant probably 6 months into that marriage, carried it not very long. I think I was in my first trimester, lost it, and then about 8 months later got pregnant with you. So I would have been pregnant with you at 29-ish and a half.
Right.
And then we had you at
Okay.
30. And that was the only reason I think you were a later baby, was because you were the second.
Later. Oh, right. You tried, but still, even 28 was late for your generation. I don't know. It's just
Right.
interesting.
And we both went to college, and we both graduated from college before we got married. So that put us, and we both lived alone before we got married.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of traveling, as you know, and kind of just lived my life. And then I met Dad, and we got married.
Well, I love it.
7 years later.
Thank you for
I
doing
met him
it.
at 21.
Yeah, you guys took a long time, which is
We
probably
did.
a story for another podcast. But
Yeah.
so you, I mean, so here I am. I'm grown up, and
Yes.
I am a pastor's kid, and that can go any which way. And
Yes.
somehow, by the grace of God, I am not in jail or addicted to drugs or whatever, which is, that not to make light of those outcomes,
Right.
but is a pretty common thing for pastors' children. You can swing one way or another.
You
Um,
can. Mm-hmm.
and what do you think about that? I mean, you always raised me in the
Mm-hmm.
church. I was, there was varying degrees of strictness as far as
Mm-hmm.
sort of when it comes to Christian parents and raising their
Mm-hmm.
children in the ways they should go. Do you have,
Mm-hmm.
was there like an intentionality there? Or, again, I'm realizing now as an adult that everybody's just kind of winging it.
Yeah.
But what was kind of
Yeah.
your ideas about raising me in the church, raising me Christian? What was that like? What was the thinking? How did it work out?
Yeah. Good question. Um, I was not raised in the church. As our family is God-fearing, but we were not raised as active, participating, fellowshipping Christians.
Right.
Okay. So I turned out okay. I get it. You just live your life the best you can, and in the upbringing that you have. I had a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Our family is very good. Like I said, God fearing, very good people, and got integrity. And so I was raised in a very good environment. I just wasn't raised in a church. So when I met the Lord, I was 17 years old, and I met the Lord in a vision in my bedroom.
Yeah.
And that absolutely radically rocked my soul and saved my life. Just, now that I know what I know, I could have really, really turned out differently.
Yeah.
However, the Lord saved me, literally just reached down and said, "Hi, here I am." And I'm like, whoa, and gave my heart to him. So that was kind of the same way your dad got saved as well. So we are I'm going to say first generation
Sort of
Christians.
fellowshipping, church going, full on
Yes.
Christians. Right.
Full on, sold out, fellowshipping, church going, Bible believing, Bible reading, Bible preaching, Bible teaching
Yeah.
Christians.
Mm-hmm.
So I must say, you had the good fortune of God to be born into that, I think anyway. Not that if you weren't born into that type of Christian lifestyle, you still would have turned out okay, because God has ways of keeping
Yeah.
his hand on people.
Right.
Case in point right here.
Yeah.
So but we just knew the way of the Lord, and we knew that God gave you to us, and we wanted to train you in the ways that we felt biblically you should go. Now back to your question. um what was that like? Well, keep in mind, your dad and I are very probably non-religiousness. Like, we weren't raised in church, so we didn't really know all the good rules to be strict on your children about.
Mm-hmm.
We just knew, in heart, we just knew heart rules, heart rules, biblical things, that morality and how to act and how to talk and how to forgive people and how to, those kind of things, and so that's how we knew to press that on to you. As far as being really strict with you, I think we just gave you to God. And I mean, I prayed my brains out for you. Don't think I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I did. And I remember dropping you off. Remember, you went to a Christian school in 6th grade. And then in 7th grade, I felt like the Lord wanted me to put you in public school, because I felt like he was saying, I need good kids in the public school system. If everybody took their good kids out of public school, public school would be horrible.
Are you
Right?
sure that you just saw that I was turning into a weird Christian school kid and you wanted me
No,
to?
you weren't. That was a direct, no, the Lord spoke to me. He goes, he needs to go to the public school because I need good kids. God called you a good kid.
Yeah.
God saw you and knew he needed you in the public school system. And so I said, okay. So I remember dropping you off at your junior high school, and I remember just sitting out in the parking lot. And I don't think I ever told you this, but I started to weep, and I wept. See, it makes me want to cry right now. I wept over you, and I just said, Lord, all I'm asking is that you show him the light, and you show him, I get it, he's going to see dark. I know he's going to see darkness. I know he's going to see that, because not everybody's in the light, right? But show him the light as well, and then let him choose, give him a heart to choose the light.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Yeah.
Because everybody gets choices, right? And so I asked the Lord to give you a heart to choose light. And I just remember him just holding me and going, I got him. I got this. And then so you went all the way through the public school system, and you know what I don't know won't hurt me, so don't tell me things that I don't need to know right now. But I remember you went off to college, and you did go to the I think
Christian college.
You did in a very wonderful area in the world.
Southern California.
Yes, you did, and it was a wonderful college, but still, you're out off where we were. You're miles and miles away, and so I pray for you. And I remember the Lord, I was having some bad dreams.
Mm-hmm.
I just got to say, I was having some bad dreams, just some dreams of you being hurt, and they were just tormenting dreams. They weren't like, I don't think, from God or anything.
Mm-hmm.
They were just because I was just so not worried about you, but just wanted you to be protected where you were going, right?
Right.
So I just remember praying, and they were kind of tormenting me. This went on for a couple months, and I thought, God, this has got to stop, and I go, please, just be with him, just hold him, just, don't let him go, blah, blah, blah. And I just felt right then I had this little vision. God gave me a vision for you. Jesus was on a football field, and he had really long hair, and he had his white robe on, and he was all the way on one side of the field, and he was holding you like a football, like under his arm,
mm-hmm.
under his left arm pit,
Mm-hmm.
like you would a football, but you were literally like a man under his armpit. He was holding you like a football, right? And with his other arm, his right hand, it was in front of him, and he was just running down that football field, and there was dark, like demons coming at him, and darkness and bad things were like the other team,
Yeah,
right,
right,
was coming at him, trying to take you out of his arms. And he would take his right hand, and he would just bonk. He'd just run right through every single one of them.
The Heisman.
He put it out.
It's called a Heisman.
The Heisman.
Yeah.
That's what he would do. He would just bonk them in the nose, and they go flying, and he bonked the other one, and he ran all the way down the field, and he got to the goal. And the Lord says to me, I will take him all the way to the other side.
Mm.
And when the Lord told me that, I thought, okay, never had any bad dreams again.
Wow.
And so, the Lord has our children, especially when you have mothers and fathers and grandmas that pray for pray for you.
Yeah.
So I just want to encourage all parents out there, don't stop praying for your kids, because they're going to see dark, but you pray that they also see the right thing. They see light, and then they have a heart to choose the light.
Yeah.
And that's all we got.
And
that's all we have in life. It's just choices. That's it.
There's a couple things there that strike me. Is I think what you're talking about is something that's really been sort of defining in my life, and I know I talk about it quite a bit on this podcast, and it kind of shows itself in a few different ways. But just like having faith in Christ looks different ways to different people. But to me, it's always been like, I can do as much as I can do and make good choices. But in the end, it's really Christ is the one who's got me under his arm like a football. And, there's more up to him than we like. I think even the most devout Orthodox believers, there's more up to him than I think we give credit for in our lives. And that's really easy for us to kind of say here, you and me, because our life has been blessed, and I've more or less stayed out of big life-altering trouble or danger, or I've been in danger, but just haven't, I don't know, like on the scale of horrible things that can happen to people. I'm pretty far down on that scale. So maybe it's easier for me to come to this conclusion than other people might. But really, having a faith in Christ, really, it's literally giving up a lot of control, knowing that he's, not only knowing, but giving up control to Christ, giving up the desire to understand every thing that happens in our life or the risks that we take. And I don't even know if I'm articulating that right, but that really resonates with me, that vision that you had.
And that's exactly how, as a parent growing up in the church, and I think you would attest to this, you've always been a soft heart towards God, even as a child. Nobody had to teach you that. You just always had that.
Right.
And so God just always gave you a heart for what's right, and for him, to know him. And I know I heard you mention this, I think on one of the first Ravels you were doing, one of those episodes where you keep saying, you don't ever remember a time where you weren't saved. Well, I get that, because you really were like saved from day one. I'm sure of it, However, I just remember when I was up in my room, this just shows you like how what a good heart you just always have had. And that is, I was up praying, because I do a lot of just interceding and praying. That's just kind of one of my callings in life here. And I was up in the room, and I was just praying for just life. And I was, I was speaking in another language, in the spiritual language, and tongues. And I remember you just came in the room like it was no big deal. And so you must have heard me do this before. And I was like on my knees and kind of down in not the fetal position, but what's the, what do they call that?
Prostrate.
Kind of prostrate, but my knees, my knees were down, but my head was down. So my rear end was up, kind of thing. And I don't know what they call that.
I think that's prostrate.
Okay. So, and you come right in, and you literally get in the same exact position as I do, right next to me, and your head is down. And I just heard you just start praying in the Spirit. Like you were just like, I didn't even have to teach. I didn't even have to lay my hands on you. It just happened.
Yeah.
It's like the Holy Spirit just had you.
Yeah.
From like 3 years old.
Yeah. How old was I Was I young?
You were literally, it was the same year you were, too little for the nails. It was that 3-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And you just were just going at it. You were just praying with me, and we were praying, and then we were just done, and you just gave me a hug, and off we went, and we did something else.
You know, there's people who are listening, part of what's so fun about Ravel is that, Chris and I have had sort of different experiences within Christendom. And so far, I think people, well, they know this already, but they can gather that when I say, I was brought up in sort of the charismatic Pentecostal experiential type of stream of Christianity, I mean, already you've talked about several visions. You're talking about praying in tongues. You're talking about even your salvation experience was in a vision by yourself. You weren't sort of, I don't know, I'm sure you were evangelized to at some point, but your salvation experience wasn't quite the normal, you didn't, whatever, I don't know what a normal experience is, but it was all very supernatural, stream of, and it sounds like it's always been that way. It's not really like you chose to join the Pentecostal thing, but it's just like from the very beginning you were having sort of this supernatural Christian experience.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what's really firmed me, because when I share that particular testimony, and that might be for another show, but when I share that particular testimony in detail, it's
your
like
salvation
nothing.
Testimony, you mean?
Yeah. Nothing is going to persuade me that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And that has kept me. I've always believed in the supernatural, always, because of that one thing that God did for me. I'm like, of course that's normal.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's an interesting thing. Not that anything else isn't, but it's just like you said, there's so many facets to the Christian experience. And it's just a wonderful thing. And God knows how to speak to us in a way we understand.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much bottom line right there.
Yeah. No, I love it. There's, if I may take an opportunity to sort of brag about all the sort of wonderful things about you that has really impacted me over my life is, you've always been, first of all, very strong woman, very strong. When I say independent, I don't mean like you're some sort of man hater or something, but you've never like relied on someone else, not never, but you don't require someone to tell you how to live a good life. And something that's I've always been very grateful for is, I mean, growing up, we always went on missions trips and things like that, but they weren't quite the like our church is sending off the youth group to go to Mexico. And I mean, I did do that, but so much more of it was you were like leading missions trips. You were traveling all the time. You traveled, to Asia. You traveled to Africa. And these were all sort of like, almost as like, again, I don't know how to explain it, but you're just like entrepreneurial. You were leading these things. You were planning them. You were making connections. You were constantly in contact with churches overseas, and leading teams by yourself, going over and doing stuff like that. You always were never afraid is not a good way to say anything, because of course we're always afraid of different things, and just because we're afraid doesn't mean anything. It's that you were very bold and adventurous and did so many exciting things that are cool to brag about. Even in your life, spent time pursuing a musical career that was, I was born, so of course that'll do all sorts of things. But even after I was born, you were writing music, publishing albums. You were doing concerts, all that kind of stuff. You're always doing something awesome, which I think helped me not be afraid to take those kinds of risks. Because, I look back, I've gotten to do a lot of fun things, a lot of big trips, a lot of sort of risky endeavors and career choices. I mean, I'm a podcaster now, which is like the most risky possible thing that you can try to rely on for finances. And so I think that just affected me very much. I could see the sort of lineage of bravery that came down from you. So
I'm going to give that tribute to my mother, your grandma, and that is she was also very, very adventurous, and she might not have done a lot of the overseas travel that I do and that you've done and those kind of things, but she was always like, she got her general contractor's license. What woman does that?
yes, yeah,
Not very many.
in her generation, especially,
Right?
in her time.
Especially.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I remember growing up, and she would say to me, just do something, even if it's wrong, just make a decision and do it. And and I've never, because of that upbringing, and I think upbringing has a lot to do with your identity as well.
Yeah.
So I resonate with you on that. And thank you. I mean, that means a lot to me that made an impact on your life, because that was just the way I did it,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
Sorry.
no, I was just going to say, and even like you and Dad being in the ministry and starting your own church and living that life, which is, in part, especially sort of financially relying on the Lord. And,
For sure.
Just kind of, I know we don't need to get into the whole story, but there's definitely been ups and downs and different careers to try to supplement, this small church pastor salary or whatever.
Right.
But really, it's been, it's kind of like how our whole family has always been, just like relying on the Lord to make it work, following what we know and feel is right and brings value to our lives and the world and to what God is doing, and just trusting that He'll take care of the rest.
And He just does, doesn't He? He just takes care of the rest. And where things look really bleak, all of a sudden there's a huge ray of sunshine right there.
Right.
And things just work out. And that's what I love about the kingdom.
Yeah.
Is, the Bible's just chock full of promises of those that follow Him and love Him. Number one, they'll never be ashamed. And number two, they'll have blessings throughout their life. And that doesn't mean you don't have problems.
Right.
But it's in the problems, as you stand strong and do the right thing, the blessings come.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. And I just honestly don't know. I've known the Lord Jesus for so long now, since I was 17, and I'm about 63 right now. It's been a while. That's a lot of years. And He just keeps getting sweeter and sweeter. And the more I get to know Him, the more I fall more in love with Him. And it's a journey. It's a journey. But literally never, I can't say one time was I ever let down, like disappointed. God never, He's not about disappointing. It's about exceeding our expectations. That's what He's about.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love that very much. And yes, again, that example that you and Dad have sort of set has been very valuable to me, and has, on one hand, probably encouraged me to take more risks than is probably normal, but it's worked out pretty good so far. And there were times growing up where I felt perhaps you were being stricter than maybe you thought you were being. But looking back, I can see that there was a lot of value in the way that you were trying to set standards, really, for behavior and things like that. I remember, especially in high school, I was to my recollection, I was probably the most well-behaved teenager that I had ever that I even thought could be. And there were still times where you're like, nope, that's not what we do. You can't do that. You can't go there. You can't something. And I thought, I am such a good boy. Why can't why is this not earning me opportunities to do things I want to do? And you always, your answer to that was like, well, we have different standards. Just because other kids get to do this or go here or do that doesn't mean, and that was very difficult for me to understand at the time, because you're in high school, you're sort of have peers who have varying levels of freedom and stuff like that. And I thought, well, hey, if that's a standard, why am I not being held to that standard? And it's not, I'm not going to say you guys invented this idea, but it certainly is one that you held fast to, which was, we have different standards for how we live and what we do and things like that. And I did not fully understand at the time why that was true, but looking back, I understand it now and I appreciate it, and I still enjoy holding myself to different standards than other people that I know in my life. So
yeah, I think standards, when you're growing up, especially if you have a fear of God, a fear of, in a good way, standards mean safety. And, I remember there's just times when I think I probably overreacted with you more than one time, I'm sure. But that was not necessarily God's fault. That was just, the way I operated in my life at the time, was sometimes with overreactions. Can I hear name him from some of the mothers out there? So, but I remember God, I always wanted to instill in you as a young man and as even a smaller boy, and as the man you are now, like everything, every standard that was set, was to ensure your safety without just being ridiculous,
right.
And number two, for parents, God really does just give children to us on loan. Like, we are responsible to take care of you, to train you in the right way, to be reasonable with you, not to be hypocritical. You know, we have to answer for how we raised our children.
Yeah.
That's our fear of God, that we stand before God and say, we have to answer for how we raised you. We don't have to answer for the choices you made, but we certainly have to give you good choices to make, teach you how to do that. And so I remember, as a young man, when you were in high school, thinking to myself, he needs to understand that I'm doing this because I'm responsible.
Right.
Like if I don't set a standard for you and you go off and go the wrong way or get yourself in a bunch of trouble because I didn't try to set a standard for you that was godly, then that's my fault, not yours. Because you can only act on what you know, or what choices you're given, or how you learn to discipline yourself, right? That's all kids have. They just have their parents to teach them that.
Yeah.
That's it. You don't learn that by yourself. In fact, I was just reading in Proverbs that foolishness is just bound in children. So when children are being bad, they're just doing the normal thing. That's just normal actions.
Right.
Okay. Nothing abnormal about that. So it's taking a child who has foolishness in their heart and showing them and disciplining them godly, not bad, but godly ways. And all discipline means, as you know, just to head you in. It just means to close in on you. It's a word picture. Discipline is a word picture where you have a bull in one of those little cages right before they're let loose in the
rodeo. Yeah.
That's what discipline is taking that bull with the rider on it, and it's like the cage is almost touching the side of front, back, so he can't go anywhere.
Establishing boundaries type of
Total
thing.
boundaries. And the word discipline, the word picture is more of a hedging in. It's a drawing back. It's making it a little tighter than is comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what discipline is. And discipline is good, because then you learn how to just chill out.
Yeah.
In tight spaces. So like when the Lord says he disciplines those he loves, well, nobody wants to be disciplined, but that's when you start feeling hedged in by the Lord, like supernaturally hedged in. Maybe things aren't quite working out the way you thought it would be, or it's harder than you thought it would be, or you can tell God is just pulling back. He's hedging you in. That's discipline. And the Bible says he disciplines those he loves. And so, yeah, I guess to get off on that track, you were saying, as far as some standards we would set for you as a young man, don't think we liked one bit saying you couldn't go to that party or you could just come home anytime you wanted. No, you had to be home. You had your curfews, and that was probably your biggest discipline. Where your curfews you had to be in.
And you were very generous with the curfews. I think there are times, the very few times that I was a real rascal as a young man, I remember getting some pretty big discipline a couple of times. Whereas, either being grounded for quite a while. I think one time I was grounded for like 3 months. I remember being pretty good at accepting discipline. Is that what you remember?
You were. I do. You were very good at accepting the discipline, and because of that, we usually let up early.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I remember one time, one of them was you took away my Nintendo 64 for like a month or something. It was quite a long time. And that was a bummer. But and another time I was grounded for, I think, a few months. I mean,
I can't even remember what you even would have done that would have had us ground you for 2 months.
Yes, there was a time, it must have been late junior high, I think, that I decided that, leaving the house at 3 a.m. was a totally fine thing for me to do. And I wasn't committing any crimes or anything. I wasn't doing anything, that
Was that the time the cop brought you home?
Yeah, Mother, that was the time the cop brought me home. Again, an overreach of government authority. I was not breaking any laws. I just happened to be out and about in the middle of the night. Yes, and some officer of the law decided that he wasn't my dad. He can't tell me when I can and can't be outside. But yes, he went ahead and brought me home, and that was a terrifying experience.
Well, I think you and I had a come to Jesus meeting that night.
Yeah.
And anyway, no, you're an excellent receiver. You learn really quick. See, the difference between some kids and some is just some learn quicker than others, and some want to fight it tooth and nail all the way, and they never win doing that, ever.
Yeah.
So you were really, really, really good at just realizing the error of your way, whether you thought it was fair or not. You were very humble. You had this little humility streak in you, and I think that is one reason. God, he loves the humble.
Yeah.
He's not out to be killjoy and make us hate our lives, but he just does what he needs to do to keep us in a really good place, the heart.
Love it.
And that's kind of was the motive with you. And let me go back to that one time when I was overreacting. I remember one time I don't know if it was my hormones or I felt like you were like really not caring about something or something. And anyway, I remember just going, oh, and I was just so angry. And I go to your room. Don't come out,
Mm-hmm.
And you went and you're like, oh, I think it was because I was trying to call you and you were on the ski slope or something. You were like 17 at the time and you were teaching skiing. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And I had to get a hold of you and I was calling and calling and calling and you weren't answering. And I thought you were just blowing me off and that was not sitting well with me.
Right.
And so when you finally got home, I'm like, excuse me, but I called you like 7 times. And you're like, Mom, I get no reception up there. You were trying to explain it to me.
Yeah.
And I just said, you know what? I pay for that phone. You can. I'll take your phone away. I was just completely overreacting. Just completely overreacting. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And I remember just going, just go to your room, whatever. Just go, get out of my office. I was just so upset.
Mm-hmm.
And so you went in and you were upset. I mean, I could understand that. I didn't know. And I remember the Lord, just so you know, God's got your back.
Yeah.
Because I remember the Lord said to me, you go in right now and you repent to your son. You tell him that you were wrong, that you overreacted, and you ask him if he'll forgive you. Because the Lord said that this will be a turning point in your relationship if you do not humble yourself and go ask him to forgive you right now.
Yeah.
And I remember going, oh my gosh, okay. And so I went in and you were quite upset.
Mm-hmm.
And I just told you how sorry I was and, what a jerk I was. I'm so sorry. And will you ever forgive me? And I don't know what happened. It was all me, not you. I just the best I knew how.
Mm-hmm.
And you were so sweet and just so gracious. And you said you did. And, we hugged and made up and it was better. But it's just humility goes both ways.
Yeah.
Not just the kid. The moms and dads have to learn too.
Yeah.
The right way. So.
Yeah. Well, and that's something, now being at the age where I have friends who are parents, I'm like, oh my gosh, my parents were just people figuring it out, just like my wacky friends who have kids who are just figuring it out and being able to be like on the other side of it. And I get to be, cool Uncle Basil, but to see the how it's, I mean, when you're a kid, your parents are almost like godlike, just kind of in the way that they have complete power and they seem to have all the knowledge you could ever dream to have. And, you sort of operate on the idea that they know what's best and you just kind of listen to them. And now being this age with friends who have kids, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're just kind of winging it. Everybody's just kind of trying to figure it out. This is crazy. So, it's given me a lot more appreciation for, the good times and the bad when it came to being parented.
Yeah. And that's like the parent's dream is like, oh, I can't wait till they're parents because then they're going to know exactly what it was like.
Right.
And they're going to, if they need to forgive me for something, it will be at that moment.
Right.
Forgive us.
So, I love it. Well, cool. Awesome. Now, here's the thing. We're going to land this plane.
Okay.
I'm going to start by saying you've been an empty nester for quite a while now, because that's how time works, and you've in the past few years sort of transitioned from one life season into the next season. And you and Dad are kind of taking it easy now and focusing on enjoying your lives and reaping all the wonderful things that you've sowed. And you guys are doing a wonderful job at just enjoying your life, which is another good example, I think, to set that I'm very grateful for. You guys set a wonderful example for, how to live boldly and do the thing that is not necessarily the safest thing, but if it's the thing God wants you to do, then you just go for it and trust that he takes care of you and things like that. And now I'm also getting the opportunity to learn from watching you guys that, it's okay to to do a good job of just sitting back and enjoying your life. And I love hearing about, the fun adventures that you and Dad get to go on now. And you're not having to worry about, running you still run a church, but, it's a different season, I guess.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes. We have a lot of help. We're not just doing it ourselves, so that's good.
Yeah. So some sort of pseudo retirement thing.
Yes.
But again, living sort of your life in an alternative way than what the system wants us to do, man, where you work and work and work and work and work, and then you get to do nothing all day, every day. You guys are setting a wonderful example, and you, Mother, are setting a wonderful example. You continue to do that now that I'm an adult, and are looking forward into, the sort of longer life plan or whatever. So I just want to thank you for that and let you know that you're the most wonderful mother in the world this Mother's Day. And
you're awesome.
I hope for your future to just continue to be able to take brave and faithful steps into doing what you feel the Lord is calling you to do.
Amen. I will receive that.
Okay.
And yes, I am enjoying what the Lord has us in now, and I enjoy the place we're in, and I enjoy, in fact, on Mother's Day today, we are going to, after we finish here, we're going to go snorkeling.
Fun. Okay.
Yeah.
Snorkeling.
Yeah.
Going on another adventure, checking out
some sharks. Just going to take our little boat and go right on out in the middle of the ocean here and go snorkeling.
Fun.
And so we so wish you were with us.
Yes. Well, I do too, and I can't wait to visit you again, or you visit out here. And
definitely.
Yeah. Now, I suppose I guess I would give you the opportunity, if there was anything else that you just wanted to tell the world, or something on your heart you wanted to share, or whatever, now would be the time to do it. And then we can bid each other adieu.
Okay, well, the one thing that keeps coming to my mind when you were talking about different seasons in life and learning how to just enjoy life, again, I'm in the book of Proverbs, and it does say, actually, I'm teaching through the book of Ecclesiastes right now, and it is in Ecclesiastes, and it says, eat, drink, and be merry, and enjoy the fruit of your labor, for there is nothing better than that. That's what the Bible says. There is nothing better than to eat, drink, and be merry, and enjoy the fruit of your labor. And, part of me, all my life growing up, I thought there's nothing better than work, and try to make ends meet, and try to provide all the good things for your kids, and try to get along with your spouse, and try. We strive so much to just make it all happen, and, make hay while the sun's shining, kind of thing. And that's good too. That's good work ethic. That's good youth and action. But really, Ecclesiastes say to eat, to drink, and be merry, and sit back and enjoy the fruit of your labor. There's nothing, it says, better than that. So my encouragement to y'all would be, as you're working to provide for your families, as you're working to go on new ventures and new businesses and new this and new things for your children, take time to eat your favorite foods, drink your favorite beverages, and take time to sit back and just wow yourself at what a great job you've done. You have to enjoy the fruit of what you're laboring for, and that will make your life so much happier.
I love it.
It just says.
Wisdom,
it does.
wisdom from the Lord to my mother, to you, dear listener. So
that's right.
Make sure to listen up.
Take time to go get your favorite food, drink your favorite beverage, and just sit back and just wow yourself going, man, look what I just did. That's awesome.
Amen, Pastor. Amen.
Okay.
Well, that's wonderful,
well, I love
Mother.
you.
Yes, I love you too. Thank you so much for making some time today to speak to the people and share about how awesome I am. And
yes, you are.
You are awesome as well. And I love you very much, and happy Mother's Day.
Love you too. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
You bet.
Okay. I'll see you soon.
Okay. Love you.
Okay. Love you. Bye.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Chris.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good today. How about you?
I'm doing very well, very well. Things are just really good in life right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, lots
so
of
every mother loves to hear.
Yeah, lots of new exciting things, new church and new baby, and
yes,
lots to be excited about. But we're not. I mean, we're kind of here to talk about me a little bit, but we're here to talk about you. We're here to talk about us, being that it's Mother's Day. And we were just thinking it would just be a really awesome opportunity to be able to have, our moms share in this project that we've been doing, and we've been, so excited and passionate about. And I think it's one of the great things about family is when you get to share each other's passions and those sorts of things. So this has been something that this podcast, that I've been putting a lot of time and effort into, along with several other things. So I just thought it would be really neat to be able to have you come on and be a part of it.
Well, I am honored. As you know, I'm not always excited about having to do any kind of speaking or that type of thing. I could sing it for you, but I am honored to be part of the podcast, and yes, I'm happy that you asked.
Yeah. Well, you can settle your nerves because there's only going to be, a few thousand people, potentially the whole world listening to this. So no pressure whatsoever.
All right.
And yes, my mom, she has sung and does sing in front of, thousands of people, really, I guess, at the church there. She's part of a fairly large church here in Central Florida. I don't know, 6,000 members or something over there? I think you guys have something like that.
Yeah, at our campus, probably, something like that.
Yeah, and she sings there, no problem, and we'll get up there and just belt it out in a beautiful singing voice, like an angel, and has been singing for a long time, and even with a group, and even recorded an album some time ago. So not shy in that regard, very interestingly. But then, when it comes to talking, and it's quite the opposite, actually, because every once in a while people have told me that I have a nice singing voice, but I become paralyzed if I have to try and sing in front of people. But I can stand up and talk in front of and have hundreds of people, not quite thousands, collectively maybe, but not at one time. But anyway, It's funny how that works. But you're going to do just fine. Just fine.
Okay.
It's going to be really good. I'll just give you, a few prompts and some real easy things to talk about, me mostly, and how much you love me. And then you should have plenty to say there. So no pressure.
Absolutely.
We had kind of a structure that we were following, but Basil and I, between talking with his mom and with you, and just a couple little points to get the conversation rolling, I guess. But the first thing that we were thinking about, and this will be really interesting because me just being a new dad now, we have some, we can kind of connect on some of these parenting things now, finally, after all these years. But
yep.
What was your first thought when you first saw me for the first time? Do you remember? Now, I'll give some context real quick, and then I'll let you come back to it. I am the second of 4 of your lovely children. So I have an older brother, and then I'm the number 2 son, and then there is a girl, my sister, and then a younger brother. So Jared, me, Kimberly, and then Adam. And this will become important later, but let me just set that up. So I was not your first child, but I was the most handsome and awesome. So what were your first thoughts when you when you first laid eyes on me?
Well, I'm sure it had something to do with, oh my goodness, he's so handsome. I can't believe it.
Yes.
I think some of my actual thoughts, though, being that just a little bit of rough time there, bringing you into the world for just a short little while, that I was just relieved that you were finally here and you were healthy. I do recall probably the most prevailing thought, though, was that you were very vocal as a newborn.
Who'd have guessed?
As opposed to your older brother, who basically almost made no sound at all when he was born. And I was like, oh my goodness, I am in for it. This is he is going to be a lively one.
Now, when you say vocal, I mean, give me a little bit of context.
You were pretty much wailing and screaming quite a bit, very loudly.
From the first moment.
Right, from the first moment, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, quite loudly, yeah.
And nothing settled that, huh? How long did that go on for?
Well, I don't know if I remember exactly how long it went on for. I'm sure we got you settled, but yeah, that was initially probably, like I said, maybe because I was comparing it or thinking a little bit about when Jared was born and he made almost no sound whatsoever.
Yeah.
As far as crying or carrying on, and then you just were very, very loud and crying. So, I mean, not inconsolably, but yeah. But well, you have always been very boisterous. You've grown up that way to kind of prove that personality that was there right from the start, just being outgoing and vocal, and yeah, I love every bit of it.
It is a phenomenon, especially in our family, and I don't know if it transcends all families, but in the Brightson family, your family side. In particular, there is this, thing with the second children, which I am. And when we look at kind of all of your sisters, my mom is one of 5 remaining. 6 originally had one of her sisters pass at a very early age. But of the 5 remaining, all who have multiple children, the second ones are especially when there's lots, the second ones are always a little bit extra in some ways, aren't we? I don't know how that happened.
That is the truth. I a long time ago read a book or heard about the birth order, and it's funny how often that happens, that the first child seems to be sedate and quiet, and the second one is more of a handful and very loud and outgoing. So yes, we've seen that play out many times.
Well, so far it's the case with Simon too. I told you, I don't know if I have shared it on the show yet, but when he was first born and ended up being a cesarean section, not what we were hoping for, but what the Lord had in mind. But when he came out, he didn't make any noise for about the first. It was at least 30 seconds, which felt like an eternity because, I was sitting there looking and he didn't make a sound, appeared limp. I didn't really see him moving at all. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, like, is he alive? And kind of started to panic a little bit. Like I didn't even know exactly. I mean, the whole thing, first of all, was just completely overwhelming. Like, I have no idea what to expect or what's going on. And then you see him, and then he's not really moving, and the doctors are talking to him, and the nurse is talking to him, and you can see him kind of shaking him, trying to get a response out of him, and he's not really responding. He's just like totally still. And then I'm like, is he alive? And they're, after a little bit of time, they're trying a little bit harder, and then they finally kind of started smacking him a little bit, and then finally he, whimpered and cried, but he had just a little bit of a cry, just like, okay, leave me alone, I'm alive, and then went back to, he's been so he's been so docile. I mean, he's just been so, seems very, I don't know. He seems like he's thinking all the time and just has a lot going on, trying to move and everything already. But yes, he is a very quiet boy so far. So
Yep.
just waiting for number 2, I guess, to see how see if he's anything a little more exciting.
Well, as many parents say, that would be, do justice, I suppose. You need to have at least another just.
Yes.
No, I'm just kidding. I never really put much weight on those kind of statements, truthfully. But
yeah. Well, it is. I think with the second children, there's just an innate sense they just know that they have to fight for their position. They have to kind of like let everybody know that they're here. They gotta, the first child, for at least however long, for at least 9 months, if not longer, in most instances, gets all of the attention. And the second kid comes in, it's being split already. So they,
yes.
Have to fight a little extra hard, I think, sometimes.
That is true. I agree with that.
So, so I was loud, I was handsome. Those are wonderful things. I wonder, because I didn't experience this, and it's not really like, I don't feel any shame in saying it, but as I was just talking, there was a lot going on, but everybody talked about the kind of the like love at first sight sort of thing. Like the first moment you see your child, you're just going to have this love like you've never experienced, and this very romantic kind of, presentation of it. But to be perfectly honest, well, first when I saw him, I thought he might be dead. So I was a little bit panicked. But then of course too, I mean, he's, they're covered in all kinds of stuff, fluid and whatever, body stuff and whatever. And I mean, he's all, purpley looking and just kind of, his hair's all matted down. There's blood on him. And I mean, it's not like, for me, it wasn't, maybe some people see the just raw beauty in that. But for me, I was a little bit like, oh, wow, and then of course they hand him to you and you're like, and it was just, the whole thing was very overwhelming. And I can't say that it was probably like hours. It was probably that first night. He was born right in the morning. And it was probably that first night after everything had settled down and we were in our recovery room together and just kind of sitting there, that I looked at him and then kind of had that moment, where it was like, oh my gosh, this is my son. And it really kind of struck me because everything before that was just so, it all just was so intense that I don't know that I had a moment. Were you able to? Did you have the love at first sight kind of experience? I don't know if I've ever asked you, with me or with any of the others or all of us.
Well, I do believe it's different for a mother to begin with. For one thing, we, carried you for 9 months.
That's true. Very true.
And that's just the difference, the way God made the difference between, moms and dads, I think. Mm-hmm. I can't say that I remember 100%. I'm sure even when I saw Jared, I immediately had love for him. But my mom always used to tell me, Grandma, and I find it to be true, that actually, at least with mothers, it is a little awkward with the first child sometimes, as far as feeling that instant, love and whatever. But by the time the second child and on down the line come along, it's like your maternal instinct already has been turned on and is in like high gear, and it's just instantly, it's instantly, different, complete, in love with your new infant and whatnot. Wow. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah.
Yeah.
No, so I can tell Jared that you didn't love him at first, but I was loved from the very beginning. That's good.
Yeah, you can pull that one on him sometime.
Gonna use that soon.
Well, what I do know, though, is that you are completely smitten with Simon now, as far as I can see. And so that first little bit aside, you are smitten with him now, and
yeah. Well, and it wasn't too that I didn't love him. I mean, I wouldn't say that my heart was gushing, immediately. I felt more like, I'm trying to look out for Angela too at the same time, trying to, make sure she's okay. I got a nurse like, where's your phone? Are you going to take a picture or what? And I'm like, am I supposed to be taking pictures right now? Come over here and cut the cord. And I was like, it felt like a fog in a days, and then of course you're just looking at him, and it was and he was a chunk too, 11 pounds, taken a little bit after his dad there, I guess.
I suppose that probably was maybe one of the things I thought about you too, was couldn't believe how big you were.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the doctors, when Simon was born, were quite impressed. And I don't know if they just put on a little, if they have a script they follow for everybody about how handsome and beautiful he is and everything. But they did seem genuinely impressed about his size, coming in at an even 11 pounds. And even when I saw him, I mean, I've seen a few, newborn infants and, between my nieces and nephews, and even when I was working at the fire department and those sorts of things. And I did notice he looked gargantuan. From the very first moment. I was like, that is a big child. But I was just not too far behind, right?
Correct. You were 10'9", so
10'9",
just about half a pound smaller, I guess.
Yeah,
a little over half a
And
pound.
how many weeks was I when I was born?
Did
I make it full term?
Oh yeah, you made it full term. I think you were 2 to 3 days past the due date.
Oh, okay. So right there around 40.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows? I mean, Simon, he was about a week and a half late. We were pushing 41 and a half weeks, I think, by the time they went in there and got him out. But
yeah, that's true.
I might have been 11 pounds in another week and a half. I hear that's about how it works.
Yeah, that's true. And I thought that with Simon, that's part of the reason he was a bit bigger. He probably wouldn't have been quite that size if he'd have been closer to the due date.
All right. I like it. He's following in my footsteps already.
Mm-hmm.
My firstborn son. So now to kind of move it forward a little bit, and this, everybody tells you to enjoy, to love every season and every phase and everything. And I do. He's super cute, but right now he sleeps most of the day, wakes up, eats, messes his diaper, goes back to sleep. And every once in a while he has these moments, where he's lucid and he's looking around, and you kind of can, interact with him. But I'm looking very much forward to the time that I can have some real engagement with him. I remember with, all of my nieces and nephews, which probably a good time to just throw it in here that you are a grandmother of 10 grandchildren, and depending on how you count it, we are kind of caring for Angela's nephew, Andrew. Right now he lived with us, but there's plans for him to be reunited with his mother soon, but he's temporarily with us. We haven't adopted him. But you have now 8 biological grandchildren, and of course, Adam and Katie had adopted 2, so you have a total of what are you at now? 10 grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
Am I doing the math right on that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And 11 with Andrew.
With Andrew. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and of course, even after he goes back with his mother, he'll always be, part of our family just as much as he is theirs. But yeah, so 10. Yep. And you're not too far behind Grandma Brightson, who was, well, I guess you are kind of. Was she 17?
I
think it was 4, 8, 12. Yep, it's 17. All right, yeah. So we got 6 more. I think all the rest of them are done already with their 3 apiece. So yeah. Jared, Kim, and Adam all have 3. We're coming in with 1. I think we're going to call it a 2, but we'll see what happens. You never know. But yes, a grandmother of 10 or 11, however you want to count it. And this is something I was going to kind of save this for the end, but it's just kind of naturally going here. I wonder, and I think I know what you might say, but is it better being a mom or a grandma or a Gigi, as you are so fondly called by all of your grandchildren? Maybe not better, but compare the 2 for me.
Well, there are moments as a grandma that are better than a mom, and that's just, I think, with the natural flow of things, because I don't have that the day-to-day of being maybe as tired and having to go through the motions so much and doing all of the extra laundry and all of the extra things, like that go with with children that can kind of, wear on you a little bit. But I think there's both. There are many ways, that being the mom was much better as far as just being able to be there, every day as part of your, in your life, and having even more involvement. But like I said, there are certain ways, that with the grandchildren, it's just so much more, rewarding, and that's kind of a hard one to actually say, one way or the other, 100%.
It sounds to me like what you're saying is it's easier to
well,
be
it
a
is easier
grandma.
for sure.
All of the joy, none of the pressure.
That's right. You can.
Yeah.
I don't quite do the sugar the kids up and send them back home kind of thing, but
Yeah. She says she doesn't. She we'll get to it later, but she owns a bakery, so we will see. We'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, no. I can see that, but I figure it must almost be like a multiplication of joy, because I can talk about this from a ministerial sort of perspective, where I know that I have had, in my time as a youth pastor, I had students that I discipled and poured into, and they become kind of like your spiritual children, like Paul talks with Timothy, he calls him his son in the faith, that sort of thing. And then at some point or another, your Timothy ends up going on to disciple people, and he's off on his own now. And then he starts, preaching the gospel and having people come to faith, and then he starts discipling people. And I've had this, in my own life, with, some of my students, and even now at the new church, Bo is there working with us. He was one of my students in the youth group, and now he's there, as kind of like a spiritual son. And he even has, students that he has discipled, and that he has kind of taken under his wing, and some of them are there. Sam, most notably, and it does kind of just, even in that sense, it just gives you this great sense of kind of pride, that the good kind of pride, where you're proud of this person, that you have poured so much into, and then now you see them kind of carrying on that work. And I can imagine that becoming a grandparent is that same sort of feeling, just multiplied over and over again.
Yes. Yeah.
And
I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Every success of your grandchild is, counted also to your own children. So it kind of is just, it can't not be better.
Exactly. That's a good way to look at it. Yes.
So, well, that's good. We were moving to, though, in my own life and our journey together, you and I, the birth there, and then all of the infant years and stuff. And then sometime, along the way there, I grew up and became a little elementary school kid, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, whatever. And we had some questions that we were coming up with, and Basil threw one in. And I don't know if this was coming just from some kind of personal experience of his, but he was talking about a time perhaps that he might have embarrassed his mother in church. And I kind of talked to you about this earlier to give you a little heads up about this stuff. And you said, I never embarrassed you in church.
No, I've continued to think about it. And I can't think of any time in church that you embarrassed me.
How about apart from church?
Well,
we'll just open it up wide open.
Have
I ever embarrassed you?
I mean, there might be, but it's a typical kid thing to, be out in public somewhere or something, and pointing someone out and loudly proclaiming to the whole world that they maybe are a larger size than most people are, or something like that.
Oh boy.
Or look at mommy, he's fat. Yeah, something like that. But
I did that.
Oh, I'm sure you did at least a time or two, probably somewhere. But yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But that's just children are innocent. They speak, the truth.
Yeah.
So no, I can't really say that there's any time that you embarrassed me. The only thing I thought is church. I thought, well, maybe not embarrassed, but maybe just kind of interesting or revealing some of those times when early on when you were preaching and you started like telling some stories about some of your what do you want to call it? Adventures
my
with your best friend. Yeah, your exploits. That's a good word.
My exploits as a teenager.
Your exploits with David. You might not even been a teenager when you decided to start a fire on the back porch and burn the GIG men or whatever that was. I was like, oh, okay, that's the first time I'm hearing that one. So yeah.
Oh, yeah. You weren't there for the cleanup on that one.
No. Apparently you got rid of all the evidence before I got home.
We almost burned the house down. Yeah. Well, just curious. I was just curious. Wanted to know, what a GI Joe being burned at the stake might look like, and I found out it's incredibly difficult. FYI, for anybody out there. To put out burning plastic, in case you didn't know. So it just doesn't, it's really hard. It's a really challenging thing. We didn't have a fire extinguisher or water with us. So yeah, well, that's, I think every parent, I'm trying to think of any, person that I know who's, in their adulthood, who made it all the way through their teens and 20s without, getting into some kind of trouble. I don't know anybody. There is my sister Kimberly, who apparently has never done anything wrong in her life. That's not true. She's got a few. We're not going to air that out though. But yeah. So mostly really well behaved. How about any fond memories then in church in particular? If I didn't particularly embarrass you, anything that maybe just made you, swell with pride and feel so happy to be my mother?
Well, particularly the first time I heard you preach, but I would have to say every time I hear you preach, that happens actually. So, yeah, pretty much. Pretty much, you are. I just sit in awe, actually. Sometimes at just the gift that God has given you. To reach people through your preaching and teaching. And it's not just me, because I'm a mom. Lots of people have communicated that to me as well, after they've heard you or hear you, and they say the same. They just reiterate the same type of thing that I'm already thinking. It's just that God has just given you a special gift for preaching and teaching, and you just have such a way of communicating to people, and there's almost never a time when I don't come away and see something about a story that I've heard many times in my life, but see it in a different way, or in a different light. So yeah.
I'm getting touched over here. Well, I will take the opportunity to echo back the same sort of thing. I have kind of taken it for granted my whole life, just how, lovely a singing voice you have, because I would just grew up hearing it all the time, and we would just be driving, whatever, on family vacations or to the grocery store or whatever, and you always had on music in the car. You always had on, the local Christian radio station, or perhaps my favorite, the Sandy Patty cassette tape, whichever one it might have been at the time. And you would always just be singing along. And I just always thought, everybody's mom sings beautifully when they're driving down the road, in a van. And it wasn't until sometime later in my life I realized, everybody doesn't just sing at the top of their lungs in the car everywhere they're driving. That's interesting. And then not only that, but not just singing, but, to be able to, you're in church. It's a great place to hear other people's singing voices. And, yours always did too. And I have heard people say this, and I don't know who might end up listening to this show. But people had come to me from time to time, and you were in a singing quartet of ladies. And they had said to me on more than one occasion that your mother, she stands out amongst the rest. And I said, you're just saying that because it's my mom, although I thought it myself. But they said, no. And I said, wow, that's really, really kind. And I remember one moment in particular. went my ordination, which I'm sure you well remember. And, they kind of let me plan who I wanted to participate in that, who I wanted to speak and, give a charge and pray and sing and do all of that stuff. And of course I said, I'm going to have my mother with a beautiful singing voice sing. And I asked you to sing. Do you remember?
I surrender all.
It was, yes. And then I was just like, I just love that song. And I was like, oh yeah, mom can do that. And you're that's a Clay Cross song. And what's your singing range?
Well, I don't know what alto typically, yeah.
Yeah. So he's probably somewhere around there. I don't know how many keys you had to step up or down or however that might have gone, but I remembered as I was listening to it, I asked you to do it, and you said, oh, yes, of course. And then I was listening to it sometime like before the service, and I remembered he hits this like fantastic note at the end. And you were singing it, and I was like, oh, my goodness, the note's coming. And I've told you about this since, but I was like, oh, I'm like, how's it going to go? And I was like getting nervous because I was like, that's an impressive note he hits there at the end. And I'm kind of waiting for it to happen. And I'm feeling nervous for you. And then you crushed it. You just did so good. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was so beautiful. And you did an awesome job with it. So I too always impressed, when I hear you using, the gifts that the Lord has given you. So it is mutual. So I'm happy to, that you can be proud of me, and I'm happy to be proud, back. So kind of sticking on this theme just a little bit of church, and all of those things. I have a curiosity and fascination and a love and an interest for the Bible. And I was just wondering if you had any particular, verses that maybe were your favorite, a favorite verse, a life verse or something like that, or maybe a particular story from the Bible, that has always kind of is a source of encouragement or inspiration or just marvel for you, anything like that you might want to share.
Well, one of my verses in the past, I guess, particularly that if people ask you if you actually have a life verse, quote unquote, is Psalm 27:1. That just says that the Lord is my light and my salvation. Who is there to fear? And depending on what version you read, it's the Lord is my life's fortress or my stronghold. But I kind of like the life's fortress version of it, just because it does, bring it more to your whole life. It's not like just a time or something where he's been your stronghold, even though he has been. But he's my fortress for my whole life. And I've seen him so many times just bring me through, some difficult times and just being faithful to me. And so that's one of my favorite verses. And actually, and the rest of Psalm 27, actually, I kind of like, this means a lot to me too, where it just talks about this one thing that I will seek, to remain in the Lord's house all the days of my life, in order to gaze on his beauty and to search for answers in his temple. And that he hides me in times of trouble, and all of that. That just like that whole psalm.
Yes, that's one of Angela's favorites as well.
Oh, is it? That's cool.
Yeah, it sure is. And I mean, you bring it up. It's has special significance to you because you've had trials throughout your life. Tremendous in a lot of ways. And one of the interesting things about being a parent is that kind of in the same way that you're talking about the Lord being your shelter, as a parent, you feel that responsibility for your children to be their shelter and to shelter them. And some of that means having to carry, burdens on your own and to not, you don't tell your kids when they're so young all the things that you're dealing with. But of course, as I've gotten older and have been able to kind of, the time comes when I can process certain information and, look at facts and not, sway my opinions about, other people and those sorts of things. You've let me in on a lot of those, trials, and some of them, just as I've gotten older, you experience them at later points in your life. Various things, family, situations, even the loss of your parents and all of those different things. So it hasn't been a super easy life for you. I don't suppose anybody's is, but I'm just reflecting on the significance of those verses, given kind of the trial, some of the things that you've come through in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it was, I would have to say, more around those times, or in that time in my life, when I came upon that verse in a different way, to where I would say, hey, this is my life's verse. I wouldn't say that was my verse right from the time I was young or anything, but yeah, definitely as time went on and just life happens, and like you said, just have to deal with difficult things sometimes, but
yeah,
encouraging to know that he's got us. He's always there, and he's always got us.
Yeah.
He's got me.
I rest in, it's something that, I know and I believe, for myself that, the Lord has me. And it's something that Angela and I pray, daily for, Simon, and kind of something that have always, I feel like I have known always, but I'm kind of working through the full implications of it. But that basically I see your entire life as a stewardship, to the Lord. Like nothing that you really have is yours. None of your material possessions, or yours. Your time is not yours. Even, the gifts and things like that we've been talking about, the Lord, he dispenses as he sees fit all of these different things. And it's all the Lord's. And then that even boils down to your children. Mm-hmm. And your children are, it is a stewardship that I'm looking at Simon, and, I'm thinking, oh, he's my son. But then I'm, continually reminded he's God's far more than he's mine. And it's my responsibility to just make sure that I am, pointing him to the Lord in all things, that I'm being an example of, faithfulness in those sorts of things. And that's something that I, always, when I think about the things that I'm thankful for you about, that is one of the things, is your faithfulness to the Lord, your consistency in church, and your, through all the difficult times, being able to see you pressing into God, and looking to him, for your support, for your sustenance, for your strength, and just being able to hear your testimonies over and over again. And that is something that, and even as Paul, as he's talking to Timothy and he's writing to him in his letter, he credits Timothy's grandmother and his mother for the legacy of faith that Timothy has. So he says, your mom and your grandmother were pillars, in the faith. And he says, and now that's, worked its way down to you. And I think about that in my own life, that I have, you. I also have Dad, but I have you, and then I have, Grandma before you, who was, one of the ladies who told me in my life, every time I talked to her, not every time, but most times, she would say, I pray for you every day. And I believed her. I believed her every time that she told me.
Yep.
Are you getting your grandma, praying skills? Are they dialed in? Are they centered?
Oh yeah. Well, they have been for a few years, so yeah. I guess Simon reaps the benefit of that, being that my oldest grandchild is 10 now. So.
Oh my goodness, she is, isn't she?
Yeah, she is.
It's crazy. Well, so kind of, moved through, kind of the progression of life quickly. Don't want to spend all the time in it, but one of the things that we were asking was, expectation, and did I turn out how you expected? When you saw me, just the giant, 10.5 pound screaming baby, and as you were, swaddling me and nursing me and thinking all of the things for my future, how we doing? How'd I do? Where are we at? Is this what you expected? What do you think?
Honestly, as you were that young, I'm not sure what the expectations were. Obviously, I think at that point, just thinking just to be happy and healthy, but yeah, you have exceeded any expectations that I could have or would have ever had. I certainly never expected to have a child who earned their doctorate and would now be called doctor, which I avoided greeting you that way at the beginning because I know Basil will do that for you like he does every time. But yeah, no, I never would have. And it's not even just the doctorate. It's not to diminish that in any way, but just, going back to what I said about your preaching and how God has just used you and is using you and the gift that he's giving you to communicate his word to people is just it just blows me away many times. And so I don't know that I would have ever quite expected that in any of my thoughts or hopes and dreams of anything. Excuse me.
Yeah.
As far as, when you were younger. So.
Well, that's nice to know. Nice to know that I, came in above expectation, maybe.
Yeah. And I mean, as you grew and got older, I definitely would say that I had a sense that there was something, a little extra special about you. I just didn't really know yet, at the time what it was going to be, but I just knew that there was something a little extra. Like I said, a little extra special.
Folks.
Yeah.
Did you hear that? I'm extra.
Yeah, you're extra. Yeah.
Well,
you're the mostest, remember?
Yes. Yes.
We used to say that things. The mostest in many ways, but that mostly referred to just that was a good reference, a good in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good to know. I would say that, I didn't have expectations for me to be here either. So, the Lord, we plan our steps, but the Lord directs our path. We have ideas for what we want in our life. And then, sometimes you just gotta go where the Lord sends. And, certainly, this, level of education, for one, was never something that I ever, set out to do, but the Lord provided. But there was always, and I think it really is in all of your children, there is just a deep-seated love for the Lord, and it's kind of unshakable. And no matter how much it might manifest itself through our different lives, I think that is something that is, a family heritage. And I was thinking too, you may have had some thought maybe that one of your kids might be a minister, considering that your father was, considering Grandpa was, served in the church. So, had a great legacy. I've talked about him, a time or two. Of course, depends on who's listening and making the, conclusions about things, but did serve, closely there with Jerry Falwell at Thomas Road. And Jerry's polarizing guy. You either really love Jerry or you think he's, something of a firebrand.
Yep,
and he had that about him. But yeah, Grandma and Grandpa always serving, at the church, and Grandma too. She served with the ladies there and had a great ministry in the kitchen up there at Thomas Road. And I remember as a kid going up there and hanging out with her, during the summers, and she's working away in the kitchen preparing food for hundreds of people. And me and Jared and Chad making, snowmen out of the crushed ice machine that they had there. And we grew up in the church. It really is such a blessing, and something that I'm really so excited, for Simon, that, he gets to grow up in the church. And I don't know for me, I can't say for everybody, but I had a season there that I got away from the church and went out to see what the world had to offer, realized it was a bunch of garbage, and came back around. But even having grown up in the church, I don't think that it had a negative effect. I think that, as I was saying before, kind of just your example of your faithfulness, even in, my wanderings, was one of those things that was able to, kind of bring me back and keep me grounded. So, hoping and praying that you do the same for your grandchildren, for all of them, and for Simon. And I'm really excited about it. How do you feel about that?
I think that's great. It's very rewarding to hear you say that, and definitely want to try to do the same and emulate the same for my grandchildren. I hope they see the same thing.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I grew up, made you proud. Not that I didn't have some hiccups along the way, some significant troubles and things. I don't know that I've shared it on the air. I probably haven't, but you did pick me up from jail once. People, this might come as a shock to everyone listening, but it's part of the testimony and part of the story.
Sure.
What was that? What was that like? What were you thinking then?
Well, I probably was a little bit numb at first, but I just remember wanting to get you out of that place, for one, and just loving you unconditionally. Like that wasn't going to change anything that way. Just more concerned about you and where you were at with all that, and yeah. Just that was it. Just loving you. Just letting you know that it didn't change anything in that department.
Well, and that is something that I have. That wasn't the only big old mess up that I've had in my life, but it was just right there, right after high school. I think I was a freshman in college there, and substance abuse related issue, something that is certainly regrettable now, but honestly was one of those things in my time away from the church that really the Lord used to grab my attention, and to kind of turn me back around, and just kind of that moment that the prodigal son has there in that parable, where he finds himself eating with the pigs, and it says, and when he came to himself, he realized where he was and what he was doing. And that was one of those moments for me, that I was sitting, in jail, and thinking, how has my life gotten to this? And started thinking about all of the wonderful blessings that I'd had, and how ridiculous it was that I was, in this place. But I do remember coming out and feeling, very, very ashamed. And you just greeted me with a hug and with love, and wasn't the only time. And it is something of that unconditional love of the Father that, I just have to remember that in the depths of all of my sin and in all of my wickedness, he just desires repentance. Just come home. Just get away from this. There's not judgment waiting for you. There's not condemnation waiting for you. There's love and forgiveness and acceptance. And that is something that I can say without trying to flatter you, that you have exhibited to me time and time again. And there have been moments in my adult life when, as you recall, I just needed to come and curl up in your lap. Mm-hmm. And you have provided that and have been that for me so many times. And it is a wonderful example. So I love you very much for all of that. And I just want to take a moment to brag about you, my mom, as I've already talked about. Fantastic singer. Everybody knows this. We sang, traveled around in a women's quartet singing group. You guys got into the studio, recorded some covers, some original music. It was really cool, a really exciting season for you in your life. But I think even more exciting than that perhaps was worked faithfully at a doctor's office and a big, it's maybe more than that, diagnostic center, whatever it is, however long. How long were you there?
Right about 30 years.
30 years, folks. You don't see that anymore in the world. You don't see people staying at jobs. The commitment to companies, it used to be something that you saw a lot. And in the course of those 30 years, you started off as tech in the lab, and then you worked your way up to being essentially the diagnostics director. What was it? What was the official title? I forget.
Yeah, something like that.
Something
kind of
like
just
that.
A supervisor type position. Yeah.
Yeah, telling a bunch of people what to do, basically, running the show for the doctor. And we're there for a long time, very, very comfortable in that, I think, in a lot of ways, probably, not super happy, I think, in some ways too, but you have this artistic ability, which you kind of inherited from your mom, from grandma, this ability to bake. First of all, my mother is an incredible cook, making dinners. It was not an unusual occasion that on just any given Sunday evening after church that we would just have a full ham dinner with the best ham gravy that you've ever had in your life, not a single lump in it, delicious flavor, mashed potatoes, green beans, all of the, like a full, like what you are used to seeing on Thanksgiving. And it was just regular Sunday dinner at our house, and everything cooked to perfection. Not just saying this. I guess everybody's kind of inclined to the food that they came up on, but when people eat your cooking, they're all like, this is incredible. So fantastic. Not only does she cook incredibly, but then also bakes on top of that, has world famous, I'm going to call them world famous. They have been to all parts of the world at this point. They have gotten around overseas, chocolate chip cookies that I would like to say I've had a little help in the process of kind of, shaping those over time. Mostly, I think my only bit was start to undercook them just a little bit. I asked you just to take them out. Could you just take them out just a little bit before, and then they just come out gooey and delicious, and they're perfect, and they're so wonderful. Best chocolate chip cookies you've ever had. And then grandma made, all kinds of cakes, and you started making cakes as well. And your cake making, people started to realize, oh wow, Michelle makes incredible cakes. Not just like, hey, it's a birthday, can you make a birthday cake, but wedding cakes. And then you started making wedding cakes, and then you started experimenting with different kinds of, instead of doing, what is it, buttercream frosting? Is that what the one is called? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then you started working with the fondant, and then you started getting into all kinds of crazy, just nutty cake designs where it's like on whatever, on, you watch those shows on TVs, and she's doing these sorts of things. And then you were doing that like every weekend, working at the clinic up there 5 days a week, and then on the weekends doing all of this. And you started to realize, I think, wow, there's a lot of demand for this. And if you didn't think it yourself, I'll fill it in for you, because you're extremely talented. Not only do her cakes look incredible, but this is what everybody says. You can go look up her stuff online too, and see that these are the testimonies of the customers. Not only do they all look incredible, but they all say they taste great too. Because it's one thing, you get a lot of cakes sometimes and people will make them look great, but then the point is to eat them after you're done looking at them. A lot of times people eat these cakes and they taste like junk, but they look really cool. My mother's cakes look incredible and they taste incredible. And at some point there, coming up on 30 years of being at the office there, you stepped away from it. You took a bold step out in, perhaps faith or determination or combination of the both, and opened your own bakery. It is called Little H&B. If you're spelling it, if you're searching for it on Facebook or Instagram, it's LIL apostrophe H and the and sign B. And explain that to them. Where does the name come from there?
Oh, well, that actually originated with my mom when she was making birthday cakes and things for us. When she wrote happy birthday on a cake, she always wrote the happy and the birthday in lowercase letters. Like, she didn't start them with a capital letter like most people do.
Yeah.
So when I started making birthday cakes for you guys and whoever, I just did the same thing, just guess because I'd seen my mom do it that way. So there was a point in time there where people would question me about that and ask me why I did that, or they'd maybe kind of even razz me a little bit, like, "Hey, you write people's first names in capital letters, but why don't you write those words in capital letters?" Mm-hmm. But that's just the way I did it. And then a good friend of ours one time actually, called up and said, "Hey, I want one of those little H&B cakes." So that was he probably coined that phrase. I think that was Mark Snow Sr. And so that was many years ago, but it was the start of, oh well, there's a catchy little name. But anyway, so as time went on and as we did finally start my own bakery business, that name stuck, and it's kind of an homage to my mom, who taught me almost everything I know practically about baking and got me started with that good foundation. But I did actually just a few years ago, before my mom passed, did ask her that, why did you do that? And she said, I don't know, I guess because it was easier. So
well, there you
go.
Yeah.
So
that is neat.
That's where the name comes from.
I can remember back at our first home in Florida, you were making a wedding cake. There may have been several of these instances. I don't know if you remember the particular one, but you were working on a wedding cake, and it was multiple tiers. Folks, these are the ones with the pillars, and you stack up 3 different levels of cakes on these pillars, and they're look like they're going to fall all over. Also, many instances with us as children, before were in a professional operation, that we would be driving to deliver these cakes, and all of us sitting with a tier of a cake on our laps, driving down to drop these things off wherever they were going on a couple occasions. And I mean, you would put fountains in them, and you had water, and I mean, it was incredible, the stuff that she was doing. But I can remember one such project, and you were having a little bit of a difficult time, and if I recall, might have been to the point of nearly tears, and you called Grandma and you were asking her about advice on how to get this one particular project done. And it was just such a really cool and sweet moment for me as a kid. I remember you on the phone there, and I was like, wow, she's calling her mom for help. She's an adult, and she's still calling her mom for help. And, I know that I can still call you for help too. So.
Exactly. Well, that's interesting. I never knew you. It's interesting to hear your take on that. I never knew you.
Yeah, I think you were having an issue with it leveling out or something. I can't remember exactly what it was. The details, I missed, but you talking to her, I remembered quite well. So yes, a long lineage there, and my sister's she's stepping into it. I don't know that she'll ever go, as far as you have with it, but she helps out there with you too at the bakery, doing stuff. So you guys can check it out. If you're here in Central Florida somewhere, she could probably offer you some services. But if you're anywhere, across the United States or the world, we have listeners all over the place. But I don't know how some of this stuff ships. Probably not that well. But anyway, if you need any services, but mostly the whole point of that is to brag about your skill as a baker, but also just to be able to say how proud I am of you. And I've told you this in the past, and just taking that step out and doing the thing that was going to be a healthier and a happier decision for your future and for your life. And now, of course, you're doing something that you love. I mean, you stay incredibly busy. I was so happy to get even this hour with you right now, because I know that you have lots of orders on the weekend. It's always a very busy time for you, but you're thriving, I think, in the business. You're doing as much work as you can possibly do right now, having to turn people down all the time because you can't even keep up with everything. And as I have told you in the past, and I'll tell you again, maybe start thinking about expanding. We'll see as it goes. I know it's another big step, but think it could happen. So Anyway, we can talk about that. We'll have a strategy meeting about that okay. later. But my hope is that you just are able to, continue to do that and to work, until you're just ready to hang up the apron, or perhaps I know lots of people who stay very happy, who stay very healthy, who keep their minds and everything alert and with them because they love what they do and they do it until the very end. I know some people in their 80s right now, in their early to mid 80s, who their sharpness and their acuity rivals any 60-year-old that I know, and they're still moving around and getting around, and it's because they said they never stopped. So for you, Mom, and for your future, I hope that you one, get at least one more grandchild from me, and hope that you just continue to thrive there in what you're doing, that you just continue to do what you love and love what you do, and continue to just set a path for a legacy of faith in our family. So do you have any parting words for all of the listeners out there? Any motherly advice or sage wisdom or words of encouragement?
Oh goodness. Well, that's a big one, but just love your children, love and support your children, and just always be there for them. Pray for them, and I don't know. I guess that sums it up, I hope.
Yeah.
And I'm just so proud of you, like I've said already, and what you're doing, and I'm just so excited to continue to see, how the Lord's going to use you and what He's got in store for you, and just keep watching for that.
Yeah, I will do my best not to mess it all up.
I know you will. You'll be fine.
Well, Mother, I love you very much. This will be my favorite Mother's Day of all time. 1, I get to share you with the world, and 2, it'll be the first time that I get to celebrate Mother's Day with my wife, with the mother of my own child. So
that's exciting. Yes.
A very happy and special Mother's Day for us here at our home. And I just love you so much. Thanks for doing this.
I love you so much too. Thanks for asking. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.
So there you have it, folks. You did it. You did it. You learned about our mothers, and you experienced what it's like for a grown man to interview his mother on a podcast. Again, I want to say thank you to Mama Basil. I love you very much. Happy Mother's Day. And, I'm a very good son. Do you have anything to say, Christopher?
Yes. Thank you, Mom. Thank you for being so gracious and stepping outside of your comfort zone a little bit to come on and do this. And we talked about some of my mom's work on there. So, folks, if you want to go check it out, get a little more acquainted with her, and all that she's doing, feel free to do that. But mostly just thank you. I think this will be one of those things when they can come back to and listen to, years from now even. I actually have started here recently. I have so many nieces and nephews that when they come over, if I'm, watching them for an afternoon or a couple hours or something like that, I'll actually just bring them into the office and set them down in front of the recording equipment. And I will make quick little kind of mini podcasts for my brother and sister and those sorts of things. So and of course, they just love it. The parents just love it. So I think, our moms, even though we're full grown adults here, be something of the same sort of thing to be able to come back and listen to. So we love you, moms.
Our personal moms, and also the platonic ideal of mom out there, and of course, each and every one of you individual Ravel Mommies. We hope you had a wonderful day, and just know that Basil and Dr. Chris wish you a very happy Mother's Day.
Yes, indeed.
And I think with that, I'll just remind everybody to leave us some ratings and reviews. Maybe say a little something about the Mother's Day episode. What did you do for Mother's Day? Have you called your mother yet, David or Blaine? Or
David Blaine.
David Blaine.
Wow.
Huh. Yeah, that just kind of happened, huh? Okay. Well, if your name is David or Blaine or David Blaine, call your mother. She misses you very much.
Oh, boy.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It's magical.
And remember, if you have any questions or comments, you can always email us at contact@ravelpodcast.com and drop us a line. Just say hi, ask questions, tell us about your mom. Do you want us to record a podcast with your mom? That might be a new service we could provide. We interview other people's moms for them, because that could be valuable. Sometimes you don't know what to ask your mom that you don't already know. So perhaps some people could learn more about their moms from us interviewing them on the podcast. I don't know if it necessarily fits into the purview of this podcast to do that regularly, but we could start the Momcast,
Yeah.
And I don't know. Here we're figuring it out, folks. We're rolling with it over here. So one more time, happy Mother's Day to all the moms, especially my mom and especially Chris's mom. And we'll be back next week with another episode of Ravel. So make sure to tune in. And Dr. Chris, do you have anything to tell all the moms out there?
Godspeed.
Thanks for listening to Ravel. To learn more about who we are, what we believe, or how to support this ministry, visit our website at ravelpodcast.com. If you have a question you would like answered on the show, or to let us know how we're doing, email us at contact@ravelpodcast.com. This project is made possible by the prayers and generosity of listeners just like you.
Doesn't say actually recording yet. There we go. Let's go.
It says Christopher is recording the call.
Ba-boom.
Nice. Okie dokie. Ready?
Mm-hmm.